So that means for fluency, you need to get into the habit of pausing before responding. I would always say to aim higher because higher for me means safer.
Could we try for my listeners? Could you rate my English? The Killing Zone, episode 48. Here we go.
Sierra Papa Sierra Sierra, ready for takeoff.
Welcome to another episode of The Killing Zone, English episode, the podcast where we are talking about aviation, safety, and everything pilots need to know to fly smarter and safer. Today with me is Rachel Shieff, and she is a specialist of aviation communication and mindset coaching for pilots. We're gonna try to explain the biggest challenges, preparation strategies, and expert tips to help you pass your ICAO English exam with confidence. Hello, Rachel. How are you doing today?
Hello. Hi, Peter. I'm doing great. Thanks. It's great to be here with you.
I'm really happy to having you here. I follow you on social media for a long time. I learned a lot from you, so that's why I'm so happy to talk to you in my podcast and try to show your work and share your knowledge about aviation English with my listeners. I know you are not a pilot, so I can't ask my typical question, but let me change a little bit. And what did you think about, what did you dream about as a kid or young adult that made you to go to aviation industrial and work with pilots on their English? How it started?
Right. Okay. Well, actually, when I was a child, I wanted to be a hotel receptionist. And I actually, in the UK, and I trained as a hotel receptionist and I became one. And then I got the travel bug and I went traveling around North America. And I actually got into aviation by accident because I I ended up in Hong Kong and started teaching English.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to hear about an opportunity that was opening up at Cathay Pacific Airways. And it was an opportunity to teach cabin crew customer service language.
Okay.
And so I applied for the job and I got a 3-month contract with Cathay Pacific, and I thought, great, it's a start. Let me try. And in that 3 months, I grew to love aviation. I loved working with cabin crew, helping them learn their service language, how to be kind and polite to passengers. And I did that for about 4 years. They hired me as a permanent employee and I loved it. I used to train cabin crew in first class and how to problem solve. And then the ICAO language requirements started to be talked about around 2005. And Cathay Pacific wanted a team that could take care of making sure all the pilots had ICAO level 4 or higher. So I went off to become a rater. I got trained as a rater in the UK and started my journey helping pilots with their ICAO English. And that's where it all started back in 2005.
Wow, that's a long time. I appreciate that. As I said, really experienced expert today with us in my podcast. Thank you so much for that. So, if you flew any time by Qatar Airlines, Rachel is responsible for the language that crew use talking to you. That's the biggest.
That's right. You know, it used to be quite funny because I tested the pilots and then when they decided to outsource my test to another centre, I then started training the pilots. And they used to joke with me that they were all going to sound like me, all with Birmingham accents from the UK.
Your Birmingham accent is not
Yeah.
that strong.
No, because I've been away for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the
Hmm.
proper one is really, really hard.
Yes.
Like Scouse, probably from Liverpool. That maybe it's not the same. I don't want to say it's the same, but it's really hard to understand at the very beginning if you are not familiar with it. Okay, you talked about pilots and Qatar Airlines that wanted to pilot to have the same level. Why is that crucial to have the same level for any
Oh, yeah.
pilots?
It's actually not Qatar Airways. It's Cathay Pacific.
Okay, sorry, yeah,
Cathay Pacific, yeah.
yeah.
So Cathay Pacific Airways, um, they didn't specify that they wanted all the pilots to have the same level, but they wanted to make sure that all their pilots had the required level before the implementation of the ICAO rating requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So I started testing the pilots in 2005, and the requirement didn't come in until 2008. So Cathay Pacific was ahead of the
Mm-hmm.
game. They wanted to make sure they had sufficient pilots that were safe to fly with at least the minimum requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, why is that so crucial to because probably why I'm asking, many of us probably heard Air China pilot on JFK. That's probably the famous video about English. And first of all, JFK. I've never been there, but JFK is quite difficult airport anyway, and. I believe it's not easy to perform with English in the other country. So, what is the most important thing when we talk about IQ or English? Is more about level 4, 5, or 6, or more important thing is the fluency and perform with confidence from your perspective.
Yeah. Well, there are 6 components of the ICAO English proficiency test. The first one is pronunciation. So pronunciation is important because all the communication is done over the radio, and you have to be understood by air traffic control, and air traffic controllers have to understand the pilots, and pilots have to be able to comprehend air traffic control instructions. So that's the first thing. But as well as that, they have to be able to communicate intra-cockpit.
Mm-hmm.
So between each other, so 2 or 3 pilots have to be able to communicate and understand each other. And they have to be able to communicate with the ramp handlers and also the cabin crew. So it's not just with air traffic control. And the problem with pronunciation is that you have to be able to understand a variety of accents. Okay, a huge amount of accents, because if you work for an international airline, you could be flying to 4 different continents at least.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to understand a South American accent, an Indian accent, various Asian accents, European accents, and it's very challenging if you're not familiar with those accents. So that's pronunciation. And then you have structure. So your structure is grammar, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you communicate using the wrong grammar, it can lead to an accident. For example, if you said, there's a very famous accident that kind of was one of the accidents that initiated the ICAO proficiency requirements, and that was the Avianca disaster. And that, I think it was Avianca 51. And the communication between the pilot and ATC was incorrect. He said, "We are running out of fuel." Okay, we are running out. That means you still have some fuel. But actually, the pilot had run out of fuel. It was his last chance to land. So if he had communicated using the correct grammar, the air traffic controller would have given him different instructions, not holding instructions, and it could have saved hundreds of lives.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also with structure in your exam, if you make a mistake with structure, that can keep you at a level 4. Okay, because level 4 allows you to be creative with your grammar. So, for example, a level 4, you could say, I taxied to the gate. I taxied to the gate yesterday.
Okay.
Right? Which is incorrect. You should say, I taxied to the gate yesterday. Okay? But if you say the fact that you said yesterday, the examiner knows you're talking about the past. So that is like a level 4.
Okay.
Right? Kind of mistake. If you want to achieve a level 5, then you need to be able to use more advanced structures well. So, for example, if I took off from that runway, it would cause a runway incursion. So you're using the second conditional. You're saying what would happen if something else happened. So that's an example of a more advanced structure. Or if he had landed sooner, it wouldn't have happened, is an example of level 5 and level 6 kind of grammar that you need. Do you want me to move on to
Yeah. That
vocabulary?
would be perfect. Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So for ICAO, for the ICAO test, you need to have a good range of aviation-specific vocabulary. So you need to have enough words to talk about unusual and unexpected situations, not only standard routine situations, because in the test you may have to describe a photograph or a video. And these photographs and videos will be of fires or depressurizations or engine explosion, runway incursions, things like that. So you have to have enough vocabulary to talk about those kind of events. Yeah. And you also have to be able to understand the vocabulary in a comprehension exercise. So quite often, a lot of people come to me and they say, Rachel, I studied overseas for, 5 years and I got level 6 in everything except comprehension. And in comprehension, I got a 4. Why is that? And it's usually because they haven't previously been exposed to aviation and they don't know enough specific aviation terms and vocabulary. So it takes some time for you to listen to ATC to ground communication, to do some studying of manuals and learn the vocabulary you need to talk about certain situations. And also listen out for those situations. And then we've got,
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Then you've got fluency. So fluency is a funny one because some people think, oh, if you're fluent, you can speak very well. Well, in the ICAO test, it's not about speaking well. It's about speaking without hesitation and without filler words. If you start using ums and ahs over the radio, it interferes with communication, which can, prevent the controller from getting your message.
Yeah.
Or if the controller is using filler words or hesitating, you can it can cause you to not get the instruction. So that means for fluency, you need to get into the habit of pausing before responding so that your delivery is smooth without hesitation. Think what you're going to say before opening your mouth. Don't open your mouth and then go say a few words and then and then continue. Just right after the question comes, you pause, process it, and then respond. Yeah, that's the best advice I can give there. And then when it comes to comprehension, we talked about this already. It's about your ability to comprehend different accents and comprehend aviation-specific terms and phraseology. And the last one is interaction. Interacting is all about responding appropriately to a question or an instruction. And basically, you should be able to ask questions as well. Because when we interact in everyday life, two-way communication is all about asking and responding, not just responding.
Exactly. So how the examiner look if I didn't catch everything from the question and I'm asking for repeat that question or rephrase this question? Is it good or bad in the exam?
This is an interesting one because as an ICAO examiner, when I used to be an examiner, I didn't mind when a pilot said, say again, because in real life, if you didn't say again, it could lead to a crash.
Yeah.
So basically, you are doing the right thing by asking for clarification, by saying, say again. But in the ICAO test, most tests nowadays, if you were to ask for a repeat more than twice, it would be seen as you not understanding the communication.
Okay.
But for me, yes, it's quite a sensitive issue because I always thought it was the right thing for the pilots to say again. But usually throughout the test, if that person had poor comprehension, it would come out in other areas of the test, not just a listening component. It would come out in our one-to-one questioning or, in the one-to-one interview style questions. Yeah.
Exam is always about the whole time with the examiner and pilots.
Yeah,
not
the
only one
holistic
thing.
approach.
Yeah. From your perspective, what is more important, to feel confident with my level 4 or to try to pass level 6 during my career? Stay with 4 if I feel confident, maybe try to attack level of 5, or what is your advice for pilots about this?
I would always say to aim higher because higher for me means safer. But of course, you also have your native English speakers who have incidents and accidents to do related to communication. But always aim higher. If you are a level 4 now, and you start working with a team of non-native English-speaking pilots, or you are surrounded by non-native English speakers, and the only time you speak English is on the flight deck, the chances of your English improving without any support is very small.
Okay.
So you're more likely to lose your level.
Oh, even that.
Yeah, if you're not practicing good English, right?
That's
You can, a lot of people, they take the test and they study hard for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, pass the test, and then they go, huh. And then they fall back into their old habits, right? Now, at some airlines, and I know Cathay is one of these, if you get a level 4 or a level 5 or even a level 6, and the training captain you're working with or flying with believes that your level of English is not good, they can send you for another test.
That's a good practice, I believe.
So you can consider that as well. I'm sure other airlines have that practice as well, especially if there's been a few safety incidents.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's always better to aim higher, because it like as you know, you only have to get a 3 in one area, even if all the others are a 5 and you are a 3. So better to aim higher.
Yes, that's the challenge as well. You mentioned about quick 2 week study before exam. How usually takes pilots, from your experience, to prepare for the exam? Could we try to compare with, I can't remember, it's Cambridge level, it's B1, B2, C1 and C2. If anyone passed of these exams before, for example, they've got B2, they can achieve level 5, or how it looks like, and how long it's gonna take?
Yeah, it's very hard to compare the two, because like I said, you have to have aviation specific knowledge.
Yeah.
Aviation phraseology, you have to be able to understand it, the vocabulary. You have to be able to talk about crashes and fires.
True.
And missed approaches. I mean, if I asked my sister, for example, to talk about an aviation accident, she would be able to give me the basics, but it wouldn't be sufficient to get an ICAO level 5, for
Okay.
example.
Okay.
And she's obviously a native English speaker. So yeah, you can't really compare the two, because a B1, B2, they have a written component as well, and there's no written component
Exactly.
with ICAO. It's just verbal communication. But obviously, if you are a C1, I would think that you have a much better chance of getting an ICAO 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long it's gonna take, that preparation before exam? How long? How many days, or weeks, or months even, maybe, should I start before my exam?
Well, there are a lot of factors there. First of all, it depends on your level to start with. It depends on your motivation, and it depends how much time you have to put in.
Okay.
So I've seen them all. So a very common one is, okay, Rachel, I've got my ICAO English test next month. I need some classes to help me prepare. So we're talking about 1 month to raise your level of English, or make sure it's a 4. And maybe you can only attend maybe 6 lessons in that time. So I do not have a magic pill that I can give you that you swallow it and then, oh yes, I'm an ICAO level 5 now. It takes a lot of effort. It's not only what we do together in the class, it's what you do in your own time. It's you watching aviation videos, and you maybe getting in a study group with other pilots who have to learn English as well. A recent pilot I worked with, so he'd been flying for about 10 months. He was quite a junior pilot, but he gave it 4 months to prepare. He was an ICAO level 4. He gave it 4 months to prepare. And we were having, in that 4 months, we had 20 lessons.
Okay. That's good.
So 21.5 hour lessons. And at the end of it, he was an ICAO 5. But he was exceptional. He was very motivated. Yes. Asked me for homework. Did the homework.
Okay.
Didn't need to be pushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And some people, another example would be a pilot from South America I worked with last year. He started lessons with me in maybe May and finished with the lessons with me in October. He was having 1 lesson a week, but he didn't do anything between classes, and he just had 1 hour a week. And he came to me with a level 4, and he passed at a level 4.
Okay.
But he was happy with that because he was level 5 in a few areas.
Okay.
So he did improve, but he didn't put in the commitment needed to raise the level. Yeah.
That's the story of my Spanish, to be honest with you. So, yeah, but maybe one day. Okay, so could you recommend any resource, books, course, apps, or anything like that to prepare for the exam? What's your insight for this?
I would recommend, for example, VAS Aviation. I think that's a great resource on YouTube for listening to standard phraseology, VAS Aviation. I use a lot of their videos in my training. Of course, Skybrary.aero. So it's like library, but Skybrary.
Okay.
.aero, not .com, .aero. And my YouTube channel, which is Practice ICAO English. That is, I think there's more than 100 videos on there where I offer free resources to pilots and controllers. And my Facebook group, which is Practice ICAO English. And on YouTube, I am ICAO English.
Okay.
Yeah.
All links are gonna be below.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to find effective free material to study with, but the all the material I mentioned to you there is all free. Skybrary is excellent. It's like a Wikipedia of aviation.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
love
I've
it.
never heard about this website.
Okay. Okay, good.
And you are a coach, so my listeners can sign up for your lessons as well.
Yeah. Well, you mean for mindset coaching or for the ICAO
ICAO
English?
English mindset we're gonna leave further for later.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, for ICAO English.
Yeah. So yes, so I am a trainer of ICAO English, and I offer one-to-one lessons. Usually that is on Zoom, although sometimes in Hong Kong I do face-to-face lessons, but majority of my work is on Zoom. And these lessons, they cover a huge range of aviation topics, like, for example, runway incursions, fire, near misses. What else can we say? Emergency landings, missed approaches, all these kind of topics that you will face in your exam. I provide mock tests. So whichever test you are planning to take, I can prepare a mock test specific to that test center and give you detailed feedback on what you need, what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and what you need to do to reach ICAO level 4. If that's your goal, if you want to reach ICAO level 5, I can guide you on that as well. But I am also very close to completing a digital course
Okay.
that I will have available soon. And that is going to be, I will continue to add to that course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be me delivering the training on video. So you will see me in the corner of the screen, and the slides will be there, and I'll be going through the slides and giving you exercises to do. And hopefully I'm going to find a resource for you to practice your speaking skill as well.
Okay. Fingers crossed, and all links, as I said before, gonna be in the description below. Uh, let's talk about exam and stress and anxiety during the exam. How it affect? From your perspective, you said you used to be an examiner, so you've seen probably a lot, if not even everything at the exam. So how we can relax, maybe that's not a good word, but how we can still calm during the exam. Do you got any tips for this?
I love this topic because this is all about confidence. Okay. And the only way that you can build inner confidence, in my opinion, is to become more competent, more skilled
Mm-hmm.
in what you're doing. So that means improving your ICAO English, your aviation English, to the level where you're pretty sure, or your teacher is pretty sure, that you're going to do well in the exam.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when you feel competent and you've got someone supporting you who also agrees that you have that skill, then it builds your belief in yourself. And you go into the test feeling confident.
That's the most
Right?
important
So
thing.
yeah. A lot of people suffer with anxiety, even if they are confident.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, even if they are competent, they suffer with anxiety. And what I do with my students is I go through some confidence building exercises, and I get them to visualize the successful completion of the exam and achieving whatever level they want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And I get them to imagine the feelings they're going to have after successfully achieving an ICAO level 5. How they're going to sound, what they're going to say, what their friends are going to say to them. And I usually do that maybe the day before the
Mm-hmm.
exam.
Okay.
And then they go into the exam and they ace it usually. Yeah.
Well done. I didn't think about this before my exam. That's true, and yeah, that's good strategy. Um,
Visualization works really, really well.
okay.
Really, really well.
I need to try next time in 2 years. Yeah, in 2 years I need to pass my another exam. As a non-native speaker of English, I can't change my approach. But did you see any difference between approach for native speakers and non-native speakers to the theirs exams? Is there any difference?
Well, the most native speakers don't need to take an
Mm-hmm.
ICAO English exam. Most native speakers get a tick in the
Okay,
simulator.
all right. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
So maybe
yeah.
talk about because you've got experience with variety people around the world, from Hong Kong, as you said, from Europe as well, I believe so. So, did they have the different approach for the exams, or they should have a different approach for the exam, or for the preparation, not for the exam, but maybe for the preparation?
So I worked in a flight training school in Spain for 3
Mm-hmm.
years, and there I worked, trained a lot of Middle Eastern pilots,
Mm-hmm.
cadets, Middle Eastern cadets, a lot of Spanish students, and one or two other Europeans. But to be honest, um, it was mainly Middle Eastern and Spanish speakers, and I would say that a lot of them are the same. they feel like they don't need to put in too much effort. The same as all students around the world. They think that it doesn't require much effort, but actually, if you want to get good results, it's like anything. If you want good results, you've got to put in the time and the effort, commit to doing well. So I couldn't say that one nationality is stronger or weaker than another. It's all down to determination, motivation. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, as we said previously. Um, Advice about listening, because you said exam it's about listening and speaking. What is the best way to improve our listening? You mentioned about listen ATC, but maybe there are some different ways to do this. What's your tips for this?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it sounds funny. Like I speak Spanish. Probably, well, I know I'm an ICAO level 4 in Spanish because I took the exam.
All right.
But what was funny for that to prepare, or when I was learning Spanish, I would listen to Spanish songs and I would write down the lyrics.
All right.
So I would listen and write and write. I would never read the lyrics. I would listen and write down what I heard. Listen, write down what I heard over and over and over again. And then I would watch TV with the subtitles covered and tune my ears to the sound of Spanish. So I think it's the same when you want to improve your English. You need to perhaps start off with something fun like music. You know, listening to music, some music that you really like, not something you don't like, something you really think's cool, and write down the words, and then progress to video and covering the subtitles, and then to ATC. When you move on to aviation, so ATC, you can start by watching the subtitles on VAS Aviation, and then cover them up.
Do you think?
And try. Of course, they speak very quickly, but
Yeah.
your ears will get attuned to it.
Do you think AI
Yeah.
can help us to do this? What's your point of view for this part?
Yes. So right now, I'm working with a group of aviation experts and technology gurus, and we're trying to come up with an app that will listen to your voice and let you know your level,
Oh,
your
interesting.
accuracy level. So, for example, you will listen to an instruction, you will repeat the instruction, and then you'll get told how clear your readback was. You'll get some kind of feedback. So I think AI is going to be very helpful in that respect. Yeah, it's not quite there yet, but it won't be long.
All right. Fingers crossed.
So that's what we're hoping for. But you know, a lot of if we go back to understanding different accents, a lot of it is due to exposure. Because I talked to you previously, and we talked about. But you said to me, "Oh, I think that it's quite easy to get level 4, or it's doable to get level 4 because you know, we are used to the different accents in Europe, and it's not too challenging." And then I said to you, well, imagine, Peter, if you came and flew your plane in China. Do you think that would be easy, comprehending ATC?
No chance. No chance, probably.
No chance. So I'll share a story with you. When I started working with pilots, we developed an e-learning program to help pilots with their aviation English. And one of the training managers, he asked me to go on a flight with him to test my ability to comprehend ATC.
Okay.
So I sat in the jump seat of this 747 and I have my notebook, and we flew out of Hong Kong and I wrote down all the instructions I heard. Super easy. And then we flew over Taiwan and it got a little bit more challenging. And he asked me, what did the controller tell us to do? And I got like 50-50. And then when we got to Seoul, we were coming into land in Seoul, I couldn't understand anything.
Whoa.
And I'm a native English speaker. His accent, the controller's accent, was so strong. But the pilots, they do the route so often that their ears become attuned to the accent and they don't have any problem whatsoever.
Whoa.
So yes, pronunciation can be easy once you once you get used to that accent. So if you really want to do well in your ICAO English comprehension part, then you need to expose yourself to a wide variety of different accents speaking English.
I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing, as you said. I'm gonna check this Skyberry, right? Arrow up.
Library,
Yeah,
yeah.
probably there I can find some different accents because when you learn ICAO English in Europe, usually you're using different accent from Europe. No one, or maybe someone from the US, but no one seems
Yeah.
to put any. Or maybe this way, I don't want to say no one, but I've never came across about any ATC from India or from Pakistan or something like that, or even China, as you mentioned. So probably that's gonna be the difficult to understand for Europe people. And
Yeah, you can also search for on YouTube for 80s as well, because there are a lot of 80s recordings from around the
yeah,
world, and a lot of them are kind of this digitized voice, but some of them are like a human voice, recorded human voice as well. So you can check out that because they also have accents. Yeah.
Another question about the exam: spontaneous speech. Spontaneous. Probably, I'm not sure I pronounced this correctly, but
Spontaneous,
spontaneous.
yeah.
Yes, that's the one of the part of the exam. What's your advice for this? Because I know many people prepare. I as myself as well prepare for the exam, and the structure is quite easy. I'm expecting some picture to describe or video to describe, as you said, but that spontaneous speech sometimes it's more stressful than the other part. What tips do you have for pilots on this part exam?
Yeah, so I think it's important to listen and pause. Don't stop, because then if you try and respond immediately, it's going to impact your fluency,
Yeah.
which is two areas of the ICAO scale that you could be weaker in as a result. So just pause before responding. I'm only talking about a 2 or 3 second pause, which isn't going to affect your result.
Okay.
And in real life, as kind of good active listeners, we should pause before responding, because it kind of shows respect to the speaker that we are really taking in what they have said, right? And then respond.
It's
Yeah.
not natural, as while you are talking. I'm thinking it's not natural if someone finish your question and you come up with the answer. It looks like it's been remembered and produce something which
Rehearsed, yeah.
So it's not the best practice, as you said. What's the biggest, let's say, three myths about ICAO English exam? For example, when you've got a pilot on your first lesson and they came up with some idea about this exam, what's the common thing they think that exam? As I said, probably that's my thing. If 4 level is easy and you don't need any work to achieve level 4. That's probably the first myth. What the other one?
Let me think. Yeah, I think that what you said, oh, I don't need to do much preparation to be a level 4. That one depends on where you're taking your test,
Okay.
what test you're taking as well.
Oh, how is that?
I think some tests are more challenging. They're meant to be
Mm-hmm.
standardized, but in reality, that's not true. The examiners are meant to be standardized. In reality, that's not true.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's true. I think a lot of pilots don't believe that good pronunciation is important.
Okay.
So they think that being understood is more important. Sorry, understanding is more important than being understood. But actually, if you mispronounce words,
Mm-hmm.
it can be seen as a grammatical error as well as a pronunciation one.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's, and the pilots that I work with who do quite intensive pronunciation practice with me,
Mm-hmm.
they all say how helpful it is. They didn't oh, we've never done that with anyone before. Yeah.
Uh,
So that's definitely a big one. Pronunciation
mm-hmm.
doesn't matter, is what a lot of them think. But then they change their opinion when they get into the work. A third one, what would be a third one?
The time it's need
Probably. Mhm.
maybe the time which is needed to achieve a certain level.
Yes, yeah, that could be, yeah, the time. Like especially if they want to jump up a level,
Mm-hmm.
because level 4 is a very broad level.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to get from a 4 to a 5.
Okay.
It's easier to get from a 5 to a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Uh, 3 to a 4 is also hard. If you're a low level 3,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take you a long time to get to a 4.
Okay.
Because I always look at people as, are you a low level 4, a middle level 4, or a high level 4?
Mm-hmm.
So usually I have like a one-to-one. If I'm doing one-to-one training, I meet with the pilot and we do have a conversation of like half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And in that half an hour, I establish where they are on that level 4. Are they a low, a middle, or a high? And then I say, okay, I think maybe 10 lessons are enough for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't think they are, I'll tell them, okay, wow, you're going to need a lot more work than 10 lessons if you want to achieve a 5. Actually, ICAO, they say that you need 100 hours to raise your level,
Whoa.
to raise one level.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily true, because if you have a lot of time, great motivation, and you're committed, you can do it in a lot shorter time, a lot fewer
Yeah.
lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about pilots and people in general? They wanted to lose their accent. how that works for the
Ah,
exam. It's important to lose their accent, or if I keep my Eastern Europe accent, I'm still gonna be understood. Is that all right?
yes, it's fine. You can have an accent and be a level 6.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you can be understood, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So
A lot of people have a very, very strong accent that prevents understanding.
mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm going to admit something now. When I was an examiner at Cathay, I actually gave a New Zealand pilot a level 5 because I couldn't understand him. His accent, his pronunciation was monotone.
Okay.
So he didn't emphasize any important words. I couldn't, like, for example, if I asked him to read back a message,
Mm-hmm.
an instruction, the call sign didn't stand out. The altitude didn't stand out. The frequency didn't stand out. It was all like this, and no important information stood out at all, and it was hard to understand like that.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he actually said that, other people have told him that he speaks in monotone.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just me. It wasn't a big shock to
All
him.
right. Okay. So,
Yeah.
because I wanted to
Mhm.
ask if maybe that was the stress during the exam, but if he did that response before,
No,
it
he wasn't stressed at
probably
all.
yeah.
He thought, oh, I'm going to go. He was actually um, he was Chinese but born in New
New Zealand.
Zealand.
Okay.
So he was required to do the test. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think I've got all of my question to you, and maybe from your experience, there is something that I didn't ask, and you want to add to our conversation. That's important for the exams.
Mm, um, I think speaking is important.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay listening. You can listen to a lot of resources online, but obviously, listening is only half of the exam. You have to speak as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make sure you get ample speaking practice. And this can be done in a study group,
Yeah.
like I think I mentioned earlier. Um, yes, or hopefully we're going to have some AI tools available soon
Fingers
to
crossed.
help
Fingers
with
crossed.
that.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm gonna put this on air, but could we try
Hmm.
for my listeners? Could you rate
Hmm.
my English? Which level of level 4 I am? Low, middle, and probably not high, but low, middle. Uh, especially for the Polish listeners, they listen my English. Um, Guys, still I don't feel confident with my English, so could you try to rate? Don't be too harsh for me, please.
I would say, based on our conversation, I mean, I haven't heard you talking about
Yeah.
aviation accidents,
Yes.
incidents, or anything like that, but based on our general
Mm-hmm.
conversation, I would say that you're a higher level 4.
Okay. Thank you.
Higher level 4. You do use a lot of filler sounds
Mm-hmm.
that you may do without thinking, like quite a lot of ers. I don't know if you're aware of that,
Yes, I
but
am. I am. Yeah.
quite a few ers. But native speakers also have a lot of filler words, and something I can recommend to you, which I do regularly. I am a member of Toastmasters International,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a public speaking organization. It's a non-profit, and I go there once every 2 weeks and practice my public speaking skills.
Okay.
And everyone in that organization is learning. The evaluators are learning, the speakers are learning, everyone is learning, and everyone is at a different level of their journey. And you get lots of practice with impromptu speaking,
Okay.
which is like this spontaneous speaking that you talked about, and also prepared speeches, which you can have shorter or longer speeches, and you can really get good feedback on your language and your fluency. It's very,
Perfect.
very helpful. And they have these, Toastmasters is international. They have clubs all over the world.
Okay.
So that's another very useful resource I would recommend. And you can talk about aviation in there if you want
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
It's interesting for guests to listen to that. Yeah.
I think my feeling words because I talk to people with in non-aviation industrial, as you mentioned before, that's the group in my environment right now. They are not pilots. They are not. We are talking with general things, so probably that's why I absorb those words to my language. So that's the most important thing. And as you mentioned before, it's really important. In which team you are playing. That's my thing,
Yeah.
and the biggest takeaway
Yeah.
from this conversation.
Yeah. When I used to teach in Jerez in southern Spain, and also when I did some work at the flight training school in Australia, the students were fined if they were caught speaking English, speaking their own language. When I say fined, just
Yeah, yeah,
like $1 or
yeah.
something.
£5 too. Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Yes.
Like because the study language is English, and then if you're caught outside the study room having a conversation with your friends in Chinese, then to put like $1 in the box. It wasn't kept up rigorously, but a lot of people, they wow, okay. They were quite honest and put money in the
Yeah.
box.
That's a good practice as
But
well, I think so.
yeah, but so I think immersion, like you said, you mix with a lot of people who are not necessarily aviation professionals, but you listen to them, you start using the words they use, and that helps you with your aviation
Yeah,
as
as
well,
well.
aviation English.
Thank you so much. One more thing. Could you tell my listeners where they can find you? You mentioned something, but quick recap and where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, and the channel is practiceicaoenglish. My website is practiceicaoenglish.net, and my Facebook group is Practice ICAO English, and my Instagram channel is ICAO English. And those are the main places you can find me. And of course, if you want to learn about me as a person, then it's LinkedIn as well.
Highly recommended all of the links, and as I said before, all links
Thank
are
you,
gonna be
Peter.
below. Thank you so much, Rachel, for
Yeah,
today.
great questions. Great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you for being here. I'm really glad I had that opportunity to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and good luck to all your aviation friends with ICAO English.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Rachel from ICAO English is a real expert when it comes to preparing pilots for the ICAO exam. As you heard, Rachel evaluated my English and said I'm currently a level 4. Not bad, but definitely not good enough if I want to operate internationally with confidence and clarity. And that's coming from someone who speaks English daily. So, the truth is, general English isn't enough. You need aviation-specific language, clear, concise, and calm under pressure. That's where most of us struggle. So, if you're a pilot working towards your license or preparing for the ICAO test, Don't wait until the last minute. Rachel has offered to my listeners, to you, a discount for a mock-up ICAO test with personal feedback, which actually helps. All details are below, links and everything which I mentioned before as well. Don't guess your level, test it. And let's get better together. Fly safe. See you next time.